In this lesson, we are going to explore one of Grant Green's most iconic solos. This is a masterclass that will teach you almost everything you need to know about the core sounds in jazz improvisation. My name is Nathan Borton, and I've taught in higher education and online for many years, helping hundreds of students decode jazz guitar icons and master the concepts that built these legends. Join me today and let's decode Grant Green's masterclass of a solo in jazz improvisation. Okay, so step one to this process is that you're going to need to transcribe Grant Green's solo off of Cool Blues from his record Born to be Blue, and do this preferably by ear. Learning it by ear teaches you to feel the concepts in this solo, even if the theory isn't immediately clear. If you want, you can use the PDF and guitar profile found on my Patreon, which you can find linked below as a guide. You'll be able to find all the concepts that we cover in this lesson in a written out etude and bonus lesson covering that etude on my Patreon as well. Okay, so in this solo, Grant uses 3 essential sounds that everything that he plays will fall into, and these sounds are sounds that every jazz musician must be able to play in order to kind of effectively improvise. And those 3 sounds are 5/1 ideas, tonic dominant ideas, and blues language. Okay, so let's tackle the first sound. So what I want you to do is listen to these 2 phrases from Grant's solo. Can you hear that they both sort of have a pull to something, right? So they both share the same sound, being the 5/1 chord motion. Now Grant highlights this sound that I just played using single note lines, and this is what's called the 5/1 sound. And he uses them strategically in the solo as well, like when the 1 chord, being our B flat 7, since we're playing over B flat blues, moves to our 4 chord, which is E flat. Grant plays this. This line creates forward momentum instead of using stagnant chord-to-chord playing that many intermediate musicians often do when playing over the blues. He also uses more altered 5/1 lines that really pull strongly to the 1 chord, more so than the line that I just played. For example, check out this line. This one uses the great alterations of sharp 9 and flat 9. Or check out this phrase as well. This one also uses the sharp 9 phrase and the flat 9. So learning when and where to use these 5/1 phrases, like Grant shows us, will really take your solos to the next level in not only blues, but anything you play in the jazz genre. Okay, so the next concept that Grant shows us is the concept of 2 = 5 and 5 = 2. So this is just a jazz improvisation trick that lets you treat the 5/7 chord as its related 2 chord, which kind of opens up so many more options. So for example, if we were playing over F7, you would think about F7 being the 5 of a 2-5-1. So if that was the case, the 2 in that 2-5-1 progression would be C minor. So to demonstrate this, check out what Grant uses over this F7 chord. Notice here he's really not playing an F7 like arpeggio. Over our F7 chord, he's really just playing C minor, our 5 = 2 method. And you can tell that by he starts off just going up our C Dorian scale, and then descends the 5-3-2-1 kind of Coltrane pattern. So this clearly outlines our C minor sound over the F7. So what this shows us is that any of the 5/7 chords found in the blues you can use minor language from its related 2 chord, and it will sound awesome. Grant will even mix the minor sound with the dominant sound, kind of like he does in this phrase. For more minor language, make sure to check out my Pat Martino lesson breakdown, which will be linked in the corner of the screen. Grant will also mix the 5-to-1 concept with the 5=2 concept by playing 5-to-1 language, moving to its related 2 chord. He does this pretty much every time in the blues form on bar 8. Check out this phrase, for example. Okay, so the next thing that Grant shows us is a sound called tonic dominant, which is a more focused version of the 2=5 concept, but it's still kind of in the same realm. This sound treats a 5/7 chord as a stable sound rather than the sound of tension and release. Listen to how Grant sits on this E-flat-7 chord without resolving, and it still sounds stable. Notice how he highlights the natural extensions of this dominant chord, like the 9 or the 13 over this E-flat-7. So one clever trick to do this is by playing the major 7 arpeggio starting on the flat 7 degree of our dominant chord. So in this case, over our E-flat-7, to get that beautiful tonic dominant sound, we would play a D-flat major 7 arpeggio. Another way to engage the tonic dominant sound is by using the dominant bebop scale over whatever dominant chord we're playing. Now, check out this phrase that Grant uses that really utilizes the dominant bebop scale and uses the natural extensions. Notice how he adds that chromatic passing tone from our bebop scale and then lands on the 13th, right? A natural extension. So when you combine both of these methods together in order to play tonic dominant, you could get a line that sounds kind of like this. So the last sound that Grant shows us is, of course, blues language, and this isn't just playing ideas around the blues scale. Grant uses 3 key devices to dig deeper into the blues sound. So the first one is called walk-ups or walk-downs, which use a chromatic note to move between chord tones of our dominant chord. For example, check out this phrase. Notice how he anchors the root, which is B flat, and walks down chromatically from the flat 7 to the 5th. You could, of course, also reverse this, right, and go 5th to flat 7. And some people even do the 3rd to the 5th using the same thing. Grant uses that 3rd to 5th walk-up in his solo as well, as demonstrated in this phrase. The second way that he digs deeper into the blues sound is by using classic blues language that outlines whatever dominant or major chord we're playing over. Check out this opening phrase that Grant uses to start off his solo. This language will work over any chord in our blues. So of course, Grant uses it on B-flat-7, but also be able to play it, and try it rather, on E-flat-7, or our 5-chord F7. So the last way that Grant shows us to dig a little bit deeper into the blues sound is to use what's called the Kansas City Blues Scale. And this is just a 5-note scale that kind of distills the sound of the blues scale into 5 notes and really focuses on that 6th sound. This is a very kind of guitaristic pattern that we can kind of move around the fretboard. And Grant uses it to kind of riff on and play some melodic ideas, like in this example. To dive a little bit deeper into the Kansas City Blues Scale, make sure to check out my lesson linked in the corner of this screen. Right, so to simply put it, if you can master these 3 sounds that Grant's showing us in his cool blues solo, then you'll be pretty much set to play most things in the jazz repertoire. Remember that transcribing this by ear is the fastest way to internalize these concepts. So grab the transcription on my Patreon if you need a guide through this process. Use this video as a tool to dissect this information, and if you're really serious about improving, then make sure to listen up. Have you ever listened to jazz guitar legends like Wes Montgomery or Joe Pass and thought, how did they sound so good? My name's Nathan Borton, and I've spent years breaking down the language of jazz guitar greats. Over on my Patreon, I've built something unique, a complete and evolving database that will give you everything you need to sound like the jazz guitar legends. You'll get exclusive access to hundreds of videos that break down specific elements of all the jazz legends, in-depth masterclasses, chord melody arrangements, practice-ready etudes that turn theory into muscle memory, as well as guitar profiles synced to every single piece of content. But don't just take my word for it. Look at all the satisfied customers that are currently using Patreon and getting the most out of this exclusive and great service. Join hundreds of guitarists unlocking their potential right now. Speaking of Patreons, I want to give a shout out to those Patreons. Without you guys, none of this would be possible, and I truly appreciate your support. Thank you. And thanks for watching, and until the next time, remember to always keep swinging.